Good morning. We're back in the Bible, which is good. We are beginning a series today, 7 days through the book of Judges. And I hate the first 4 chapters of Judges because it is so disappointing. I mean, it's not like I haven't read it before, but when I get to it, I know what's coming. You know, like there's been this whole thing with Deuteronomy, and Moses has poured his heart out to the children of Israel one last time. He dies. Joshua leads them into the promised land. And already in Joshua, you begin to see a few compromises. They're not driving out all the people from the land. But when you get into Judges, there are those words where it says, you know, this generation that knew the works of the Lord, they served the Lord, but another generation came after them who completely turned their backs on God and worshipped idols. And I mean, from that point onwards, the story is a miserable one with a few potential highlights in like the life of David and Hezekiah and Josiah, but it really does just descend from there all the way through to Malachi until the angel appears and says to Mary, "You're going to have a son." I mean, that really is when it turns the corner from this point onwards. So, man, these are depressing verses. However, what I want to comment on this morning actually comes from chapter 1 before the bad news hits. And that's chapter 1, verses 1 to 4, the very first 4 verses. And this is a really powerful thing that I noticed this morning. Now, after the death of Joshua, it came to pass that the children of Israel asked the Lord, saying, "Who shall be first to go up for us against the Canaanites to fight against them?" And the Lord said, "Judah shall go up. Indeed, I have delivered the land into his hand." So Judah said to Simeon his brother, "Come up with me to my allotted territory, that we may fight against the Canaanites, and I will likewise go with you to your allotted territory." And Simeon went with him. Then Judah went up, and the Lord delivered the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their hand, and they killed 10,000 men at Bezek. So despite all the horrible things that happened in the first 4 chapters, I want to focus on these verses this morning because what struck me as I read them was the steadfast, unchanging, faithful nature of God. And I take huge comfort in this as a believer. So Israel asked God for his counsel. They say, "Who shall go up first? Which of the tribes?" All the tribes had been allotted their territory now. They had to go and conquer it, but they had to do it piece by piece, and they had to help each other. So they asked God, which tribe must go up first? And immediately God speaks to them. There's no delay. There's no new set of hoops they've got to now jump through. You know, Joshua was dead, but God wasn't. And God was immediately willing to speak to them. Nothing had changed as far as God was concerned. And here we see that the death of a godly leader or a godly influence in your life, maybe it's a godly father who's died, or a godly pastor, or just someone who had a huge influence on your life, a steadying influence, a leadership influence. When they die, we can be tempted to kind of feel all at sea, all lost because they're gone. But the death of a godly leader does not diminish your access to God one bit. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And if you seek him by faith in his Son, Jesus Christ, if you come to him and you seek him in faith, though the whole world were to be changed and every godly person you ever knew were to have died, and in fact you might be living in some far-off land at the ends of the earth, God would still be there with you, and he would be as ready as he has ever been to answer your prayers and to draw near to you as you draw near to him. And this we see in those 2 funny little phrases, which is what I noticed this morning. The first one being in verse 1, they asked the Lord, "Who shall go up first?" Verse 2, "And the Lord said." They asked him, and the Lord said. He spoke to them. And then in verse 4, then Judah went up, and the Lord delivered. He went up to battle, and guess what? God was with them, and he gave them victory, just as he had done under Joshua. Nothing had changed. Now, I think as Christians, we can get insecure about God's faithfulness to us and God's mercy and patience with us. So many Christians, myself included at times, we feel like, man, I'm on the brink of irritating God so much, of letting him down so badly, so often, of slipping in that little thing that I always do, having done it again. Like I'm on the brink of God now actually losing his patience with me and his mercy being removed from me. So often we feel insecure about our relationship with God and his favor with us, the peace that we have with him. Like we're going to mess it up once and for all now. And of course, I'm not saying that as Christians we can go about sinning indiscriminately and that God will never respond to sin. God is going to discipline us as children. That's the point. He disciplines his children because he loves them, but he never, ever forsakes them. What I am saying is that the God who first heard your prayer of repentance when you first got saved is the same God who stands ever ready to receive you today if you will just draw near to him. There will never, ever be a day, there will never be a day where if you come to God in faith and humility, where he will not immediately respond to you. It's almost too good to be true that the mercies of God are new every morning. It's almost too good to be true, but it is true. There will never be a day when God will not instantly draw near to you if you draw near to him. And I find that so wonderful, that he is steadfast. So God bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow.